Well, after putting my Warriors Lizzie mode playthrough on hold for almost 2 years, I'm very happy to let you know that I've managed to bring it to a proper close. Now, because it's been so long since I worked on that playthrough, allow me to give you a quick recap. In this playthrough, I'd swapped the Warriors character models with the Lizzies character models, but in doing so, it's not just the models that have been changed. The voice clips, health, stamina, and fighting styles got changed as well, which makes things extremely tough. And to add insult to injury, your controls are quite janky when playing as the Lizzies. Oh, and of course, I'm playing on an emulator, which gives you a wee bit of input lag. So this is a 100% completion playthrough, and by the end of the previous part of the playthrough, I only had one thing left to do, and that is complete the Armies of the Night side-scrolling minigame. The good news is that if you replace Swan's character model for that minigame, your health remains unchanged. You still have the same amount of health as Swan. But the bad news is, you still have the janky controls, and it's extremely easy to get stunned. If that happens, you remain stunned for about 5 seconds, which doesn't seem like a very long time, but it's enough time to allow the enemies to move in and absolutely demolish you. If not for the fact that Lizzies get stunned so easily in both the main game and Armies of the Night, this playthrough would have been easier. But after taking a break from the playthrough for almost 2 years, I started up the game again, and astonishingly, I managed to complete Armies of the Night on Lizzie mode on my first try. So in this video, I'm going to show you the full run. Sadly, I made the mistake of choosing not to record live commentary while I was actually playing the game, so I'm giving you post-commentary instead, which is unusual for this channel. As you can see, I started recording when I was already in the Warriors hangout. You'll also notice that it's only the player character, Swan, whose model has been changed, and nobody else. There are 2 reasons for that. 1, I got lazy, and 2, it doesn't even affect Armies of the Night because there are 2 sets of character models in the game. One for the main game here, and a separate set for Armies of the Night. Right, anyway, enough with the intro, let's get into it, boppers. And here we go. So for you newbies, Armies of the Night is a side-scrolling arcade game within the Warriors. There are 5 stages in total. Mercy, Swan's girlfriend, gets kidnapped by the Gramercy Rifts right here. It's up to Swan to rescue her. But the catch is, he has to fight through several gangs in the city along the way. Now, I think on Lizzie mode, with this minigame, the best thing to do is try to stay as close to the wall at the top of the playing field as possible. And also try to perform strong grapples and wall smashes as much as possible. Because 1, wall smashes inflict a lot of damage, and 2, enemies very rarely counter strong grapples. And when you come up against enemies with weapons, well, they never counter a grapple, regardless if it's a strong grapple or a normal grapple. As you can see, I didn't do the strong grapple strat right away. It does take me a few minutes to actually carry it out. Also for you newbies, unlike in the main game in which you have to press a button on the controller to take flash to heal yourself, in this minigame the flash is taken as soon as you pick it up. You can find flash hidden inside boxes and barrels, or dropped by certain enemies, mostly leaders and lieutenants. By the way, during this run, I ran into a few very strange glitches, one of which I've encountered before in practice runs on Lizzie mode. The first glitch is right here. For some reason I wasn't able to try on enemy gang members' hats. Now I'm sure I was able to try them on in Lizzie mode in practice runs, but for some reason during this run it didn't work. Now back to the other glitches. I'll tell you what, we'll check out this fight first and then I'll discuss those glitches. Without spoiling too much, I'm very, very happy with how smoothly this boss fight went, because even with normal game conditions, you know, when you're playing as Swan and not Sarah right here, it's quite easy to get killed if you make the slightest mistake. I know earlier on I mentioned that it's very easy to get stunned when you're playing as the Lizzies, but you don't always get stunned, even in Armies of the Night right here. I think, from what I've observed, you don't get stunned easily until you lose a credit or lose a life, whatever. Yeah, it only seems to be after you lose a credit after dying when you start getting stunned extremely easily. Yeah, to keep the newbies up to speed. If you run out of health, you lose a credit. And then if you die when you have no credits left, it's game over. And you have to start all over again. Now with the Jones Street Boys right here, the best thing to do is get a wrench, because the wrench is very powerful and swinging it with the square button is very, very quick. I think when you're playing as Swan it only takes one hit from the wrench to take out these guys, but with Sarah right here it takes 3. Right, now's a good time to talk about those glitches that I briefly mentioned earlier on. On one hand, I'm very happy that I managed to get past this minigame on my first try. But at the same time, I'm a bit disappointed because I ran into a couple of very, very odd glitches which gave me a wee bit of an unfair advantage. By the way, spoiler, first death coming right up here. Yeah, speaking of being disappointed, I was a bit disappointed with that first death. Especially at this early stage in the minigame. Yeah, let's discuss one of those glitches. I discovered this particular glitch in practice runs. It was only during the JSB's section of stage 1 right here when I found this one. For some reason, for a short while, I was invincible. Yet, my health bar was locked at max for some reason. You know, whenever I took damage, my health bar would go down for a nanosecond, but then it would almost immediately go back up to full. So I was invincible for a short while. But it did sort itself out. But as you saw, I didn't get the invincibility glitch when I was fighting the JSBs during this run, but I do run into that glitch later on, specifically when I'm up against the Hurricanes in stage 3. I'll talk about the other glitches nearer the time. Now, as you've probably seen already, it's very easy to get stunned, and you're stunned for absolutely ages when you're playing as the Lizzies. I think Star, the leader, is the only exception. However, if there are enemies around you when you stand back up again, if you time it right, and I think if you're pushing the left analog stick in the direction of an enemy, when you press the attack button as you're getting up, you'll perform a counter attack. Yeah, like that. You either kick or punch the enemy just as you're getting back up on your feet. And if you manage to do that, it actually cancels out the entire 5 seconds of stun, shall we say. And another glitch that you can perform is the swing a two-handed weapon very quickly glitch. To pull that off, you quite simply hold down the block button, in this case R1, and just keep mashing the square attack button, and you'll be able to swing two-handed weapons like baseball bats impossibly fast. And I was very pleased with how well that fight at the bottom of the stairs went. Yep, not a scratch. Yeah, unlike here. I forget the video called Scarlet Takes a Tumble. That was Sarah Takes a Tumble. And the sequel right there as well. Oh, not too far from the boss fight with Spider and Tiny at the bottom of the stairs, I was absolutely furious with what happens during this boss fight. I couldn't believe it. Now, I'm not sure what weapon is more powerful, the pipe or the plank of wood. If anybody knows, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. So my strat for this fight is get Spider somewhere else as quickly as possible, and you can focus on taking out Tiny because you can't grab Tiny. It also seems that when you're holding down the block button and mashing the attack button, you can also throw punches a lot quicker than usual, kind of similar to the swing two-handed weapon quickly glitch as well. So Tiny went down easily, but sadly the same can't be said for Spider. I've got no idea how this happened. Yeah, annoyingly enough, his attacks for some reason weren't knocking me down, and therefore I wasn't able to perform the get back on your feet counter attack. So that's 2 credits lost in a single stage. But luckily you get 1 credit back each time you complete a stage. Right, 1 down, 4 stages to go. Speaking of 4, we actually fight a total of 4 different gangs during stage 2. The Savage Huns, Eliminators, Hi-Hats and Punks. Oof. Now, I'd say on Lizzie mode, the Punks section of stage 2 is the most difficult part. Followed by the Satan's Mothers section of stage 1. Surprisingly, the Baseball Fury section of stage 5 isn't all that bad. And that might be because the vast majority of Furies in this minigame can get knocked down. Yeah, even some of the lieutenants dressed in the dark grey outfits can get knocked down. Some, but not all. You see right there. 5 seconds might not seem like a long time, but it gives the enemy plenty of time to close in for the kill, costing you very, very valuable credits, of which you don't have very much. Yeah, these guys don't have a lot of health, but they are a force to be reckoned with. Don't underestimate them. Now, it's worth mentioning that at several points throughout this minigame, you'll come across enemies who are just standing there, and they won't get aggroed until you walk past them. Now, if you encounter enemies with weapons, such as the knife right here, it is actually possible to disarm them by performing a strong attack on them, in this case the roundhouse kick. and you can do that before you've even aggroed them. So by getting the weapon before you've even set the enemies off, that gives you a good head start. And in case you're wondering what the fuck I was doing there, I was hoping to do the bat swing glitch to hit that guy off screen, but instead, what did I get from my troubles? That's right, a knife in the fucking face. Throughout this run, you'll very frequently see me just kicking enemies while they're down, instead of, you know, changing things up and putting on a bit of a show. Well, I'm just erring on the side of caution, given that it's very, very easy to get stunned as the Lizzies. I can't emphasise that point enough. I mean, yes, it's possible to get on top of downed enemies and just pummel them like crazy, but enemies can very easily punch you in the face while you're on top of them, or worse, they can reverse your grapple altogether. And when you're playing as the Lizzies, it's extremely difficult to break free from an enemy's grapple. If I was still playing as Swan and not Sarah, I wouldn't have that issue too much. I did get a few sections of this run where the game lagged for like a second. Yeah, it just lost a few frames, got no idea why. Oh, classic emulator lag. And I think what happened there was Ghost accidentally hurt himself because he threw me at an awkward angle, and he caused Sarah's body to get knocked into him and cost him just enough health to cause the next part of the fight to get triggered. You can perform wall smashes either at the far side of the playing field or right up against the screen. You try to get a knife where possible, because you can grab an enemy and then stab them either right in the gut or right in the spine. And yes, that guy whose dead body was just off the screen to the right had some flash, and I was able to pick it up. It wasn't quite out of reach. Right. I'd say out of all the bosses in this minigame, Tracer is the easiest. Then again, it could be Sully of the Orphans, and that's mainly because when you're up against him, you're on the train tracks, and you can very, very, very easily just chuck him into the path of an oncoming train to insta-kill him. Yeah, see, I loathe and detest it when that happens. When an enemy attacks me, I'm praying that they knock me down so I can perform the stand-up counter-attack to cancel out the stun state. Right, Tracer, he goes down in pretty much less than 10 seconds. Well, if not from my roundhouse kicking tendencies. Oh, now the hi-hats fight just coming up is also pretty challenging on Lizzie mode, especially when you're fighting Chatterbox inside the art gallery. And now I've got a good chance to talk about a game-breaking glitch, which has been a problem for speedrunners of this game. Sometimes after you defeat Chatterbox in this minigame, a glitch prevents you from going through the door at the right hand side of the screen. And I think for a while, people thought that to avoid the glitch, you have to kill Chatterbox so that his body doesn't fall off the screen. But no, I think to prevent the glitch from happening, what you have to do is dive forward just as you're walking in front of the barrel, which is closest to the screen. Because I think the glitch has something to do with the camera not moving far enough to the right in order to make the, you know, the touch field trigger, you know, the touch field which triggers the punk section. So by diving forward, it forces the camera to move just that wee bit further to make sure that glitch doesn't happen. And I was amazed at how well the Crackerjack fight outside the elevator went. See, try to stay as close to the wall or fence in this case as possible, and try to perform strong grapples and wall smashes to get as much damage in as possible. The less enemies there are on the screen at any one time, the better. Another tip: when you know that you're going to be up against a group of enemies in an area with a barrel or a box containing flash, you should break the box or barrel open so that the flash is there, ready to be collected. And that saves you a lot of time when you're in the middle of a bloodthirsty battle. Yeah, it saves you from faffing about trying to break open the box or barrel to get that flash. Having the flash there, ready for you to be collected, ready to be collected, saves extremely precious time. Right, here comes the Chatterbox fight. Yeah, dive as you're going past that barrel nearest the screen. Now, as I said, this fight is extremely tough on Lizzie mode. But without spoiling too much, I got extremely fucking lucky here. Yes, I had the tiniest sliver of health left. Right. As I said, I'd say this is the most difficult part of the entire minigame on Lizzie mode. The punks are so tough. Now, one of those extremely strange glitches that I mentioned earlier on occurs during this section. Right, you heard trains in the background, right? Well, for some reason, after I died and respawned, do you hear that? No, you can't hear it because it's not there anymore. For some reason, that death caused the trains to stop spawning. Why? I've absolutely no idea. There are a couple more glitches which happen later on in this run. I have a feeling that because I've never seen these glitches when playing the game as Swan, and only when playing as Sarah, or at least somebody other than Swan, I can only assume that these glitches occur simply because I'm playing as somebody else. To me, there's just no other explanation for it. Yeah, see that train track to the right? There's supposed to be trains travelling along that track, but for some reason they're not. And yes, I've died twice when up against the exact same gang. Seriously. Now, I was annoyed because, yeah, I shouldn't have released those bottles in the boxes because one of them went back to the left to pick up one of them and threw it at me and caused me to get stunned. And I died a third time when up against the exact same gang. I couldn't believe it. Also, Stu, don't kill yourself. Well, if it's any consolation, the gang that I'll be up against next, yeah, at the start of stage 3, are a lot easier than these guys. Yeah, I found that with Armies of the Night, regardless of whether or not a character model has been changed for this minigame, and also regardless of whether it's you or an enemy gang, the health values remain unchanged. Which means, yes, the Lizzies at the start of stage 3 are now warriors, but they're extremely weak. Yeah, as if they were still Lizzies. Now, I got extremely lucky here. Thank fuck for the counter-attack. Just don't give your foes time to think. Take them out as soon as possible. Get as much damage in as possible. And that's why you perform wall smashes. And where possible, the knife stabs when you're grappling an opponent. Yeah, see again, I wanted to put on that guy's hat, but for some reason the game said no. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's also got something to do with the different character models. Now, unlike in the story mission Friendly Faces, Vance is extremely easy to defeat in this minigame. As are these two other douchebags. I'll tell you something. That mission, Friendly Faces, earlier on this playthrough, was something else. Okay, I should now have 4 credits. Yep, quick reminder, you get another credit added to your inventory each time you complete a stage. Right, they're not Lizzies, they are now warriors. Now, I've got a wee bit of explaining to do regarding the character swapping for this part of stage 3. As mentioned earlier on, there are 2 different sets of characters in this game. One set for the main game, and a different set for this minigame. Not all of the Lizzies have a character model in Armies of the Night. Yeah, it's only Star, Sarah, Dana, and Roxy. If you try to add the other 3, Holly, Alice, and Shira, the game glitches out. So I was only able to add 4 warriors for the palette swap. I chose Cleon, Swan, Ajax, and Cochise. Or rather, the ghost of Cleon. The normal Cleon doesn't have an armies model. which causes some rather interesting things to occur during the final boss with the Ghost of Cyrus. Yeah, see right there. I would have thought I would have been stunned after standing up, but not on that occasion. So I'm wondering if maybe, I don't know anymore. I reckon the vast majority of these glitches are being caused by the character models being swapped. I think even Tracer of the Eliminators had less health than Star. Or in this case, Ghost of Cleon. Ah, now. It's when I'm up against the boppers right here when I encounter a really, really strange glitch. I think normally at the start of the part of stage 5 when you're up against the Baseball Furies, you're given 3 credits, and I'm guessing that's Rockstar's way of saying, right, the Baseball Furies are very tough mothers, have an extra 3 credits to make sure you get all the way to the end, right? For some reason, during this run, the game gives me those extra 3 credits when I'm up against the boppers. Yeah, and I actually see the credits in the bottom right going up. But then later on in the run, when I begin the Furies section of stage 5, I don't get the extra 3 credits now. So it's safe to say that I got the 3 credits very early in this run. I think it's after I've left this club when I get them. Yeah, nothing fancy, just try and take them out as fast as possible. Now, if memory serves me right, I think I completely screw things up here. Not sure how it happened. I was going to say maybe I got cocky. No, I think I actually got careless. Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate. I couldn't believe it. There's only 2 of them, and they're not that hard to take out. Come on. Well, that's nothing compared to what happens in the next club. Just you wait. Right, keep an eye on that credits counter in the bottom right corner. Any second now, it's gonna... Yep, it went up to 6. So those are the extra 3 credits that you normally only get once you begin the Baseball Furies section of stage 5, but I clearly got them early. Why? I've got no idea. But again, I can only assume it's got something to do with the different character models thing. But I promise you 100% I was not using any cheats or hacks or anything like that to give me an unfair advantage on purpose. No, no, no. There will of course be conspiracy theorists out there who won't believe me, but, well, that's their problem. Yeah, I seem to remember I wasn't sure if that guy was actually dead or not, but given that I couldn't move off to the right, he was still alive. Now, some of the Bopper lieutenants in this minigame have flash, and thankfully you can pinch them once they go down. Right, here we go. Big Mo. Things went tits up during this boss fight. No pun intended. Because my stupid ass completely forgot that you can block Big Mo's attacks to make things easier. And not only that, but unlike in Flashback Mission E, when you perform a counter attack from a block in this minigame, Big Mo gets knocked down. Yep, just like the punk section of stage 2, I lost 3 credits when up against the same gang, in this case, the Boppers. Because I got fucking cornered and I couldn't move. Oh, and I forgot you can block. Anyway, that's that shit out of the way. Next up, the Hurricanes. Right. Now this is the part of the run where the game, for some god knows why reason, gave me that invincibility glitch. And that's another glitch that I've never ever seen when playing as Swan. No, only as Sarah. It happened to me a few times when I was playing as Sarah during the JSB section of stage 1, but during this run it happens when I'm up against this gang. It doesn't happen for long, but given what happens to me during me having the glitch, worst sentence ever, I should have died. Now, one of the barrels in this section contains a Molotov. That's the Molotov that I like to use to help me take out Diego in one go inside the bar. Yeah, this is where the invincibility glitch occurred. Yeah, keep watching. I should have died right there. But because the game, bizarrely, gifted me with the invincibility glitch, I survived. So I should have 3 credits, not 4. And I think at this point the glitch has gone away. And the Molotov was indeed still there. If you leave a weapon unattended for too long after picking it up, it disappears. You've got to wait for that guy in blue to come down from the car before everybody gets aggroed. And I was praying that one of the guys wouldn't pick up that Molotov and throw it at me like Virgil in stage 1. Thankfully, no. No idea why I kicked that open. I think maybe I didn't notice that guy in blue had dropped some flash after dying. Yeah, as discovered earlier on in this playthrough, getting hit by projectile weapons when playing as the Lizzies can spell game over because you get stunned. Just like that. Unless you grab somebody, in which case the stun gets cancelled out. Right, don't ask me why I didn't grab a bottle from the bar and hit somebody in the face with it. Because if I had, that death would have been prevented. Now, regarding the getting the 3 extra credits early thing, I watched the video carefully and did my calculations and stuff, and I can confirm that even if I hadn't received those 3 credits early, you know, when I was up against the boppers, I wouldn't have got game over anyway, so it's all good. But that being said, if I hadn't received the invincibility glitch, I would have got game over, because those guys outside would have killed me. Now, I was astounded by how well the fight against Vargas went. Yeah, he was obviously helping himself to the booze. He was drunk. He didn't want to lay a finger on me. Shame the fight against Big Mo couldn't have gone that smoothly. Right, anyway. Stage 4, the easiest stage in the game and the shortest because there are only 2 gangs, Orphans and Moonrunners. Yeah, I'd say Sully is the easiest boss in this minigame. Just turn him into, I was going to say pavement pizza, but no, in this case, train track pizza. I was going to say you can decide when you want to get back on your feet after being knocked down, but technically you can't, because you do automatically get back up after a certain amount of time has passed. And again, if there's no enemies around you, you won't be able to perform the stand-up counter attack. By the way, if you've been seeing Sarah having a seizure throughout this run, she does that for some reason when you're keeping the aim button or lock on button held down, in my case L1. The reason I try to keep that button held down is because, well, you lock on to the nearest enemy, and it's good to have it held down as you're approaching the edges of the screen, because it causes enemies' health bars to appear, so you know when danger is ahead. Yeah, unlike the punk section of stage 2, there are trains here. But Stu, that doesn't explain why Sarah keeps having seizures. Well, I found that if you keep the lock-on button held down, she, for some reason, has a habit of locking onto dead enemies. And I bet that's got something to do with the janky controls as well. Right, shortest boss fight ever. I love the taste of train track pizza in the morning. Pizza in the morning. Whatever floats your boat, I suppose. I ain't gonna judge. Right. Now, some of these guys spray you in the face with paint, and even that causes Sarah to get stunned for an annoyingly long amount of time. Of course, If you're in the middle of grappling somebody and you get sprayed, you don't get stunned. You just get the blurry screen. Yeah, it's pretty rare to be able to break free from an enemy's grapple when you're playing as Sarah. But luckily I was able to do it right there. See, always smash the containers to have that flash ready for collection. Saves you extremely precious time. This is another fight that almost went tits up, but I defied all the odds. Don't underestimate these guys, especially given that they have paint with which to stun you. Also, given that you have to press 2 buttons at once in order to perform a strong grapple, specifically X and circle, it's very easy to end up only pressing 1 button, and therefore you perform the wrong move. You either throw a punch or you perform a regular grapple and risk getting countered and stunned. Now then, we're on to the 5th and final stage. By the way, at the start of this stage, I pause the game and go away for a few minutes, just to make sure that the footage recorded okay. Yeah, right there. And everything was okay. Right, first up for stage 5, the rogues. And just like the warehouse section of the Satan's Mother's fight, and the art gallery section of the hi-hats fight, you can throw these guys to their deaths. Stu, I think you'll find the entire Satan's Mother's fight takes place in a warehouse, and not just part of it. And that's what I call an extremely lucky escape. I honestly thought I wasn't gonna survive that one. But like the fight against Bullet and his cronies, in the previous stage. I defied all the odds. Right, don't forget to wash behind the ears, guys. I think this is the only time in the game where you see the rogue's turf, which is Hell's Kitchen. Or is it? It could be the rogues just invading someone else's turf. Hard to say. On the topic of other gangs, I'm quite surprised that you don't fight the Turnbull ACs in this minigame, given that you encounter them not once but twice in the main game, missions 11 and 14. That was pretty unfortunate. So, I'm playing as Sarah, whose attacks don't inflict as much damage as Swan's attacks, and Luther, right here, has a shitload of health. What's gonna happen here, folks? Well, just watch and you'll find out. Not gonna lie, when I was fighting Luther here, I totally forgot that he calls for backup. Thankfully his backup don't have much health. I was really impressed that I managed to get past that without dying. Yeah, now normally you would get those extra 3 credits right here, but as you saw in this run, that didn't happen, so I clearly got them early. Now I was a bit overwhelmed at how much health Joe right here has. Now although these guys, well, most of them have baseball bats, they're actually not all that difficult to fight, even on Lizzie mode. Says the one who died twice when I was up against them during my very first video walkthrough of this game for YouTube back in 2007. Bloody hell, how the fuck was that almost 20 years ago? Some of these guys can get knocked down easily, others not so much. I think Babe is a good example. And that's definitely not a reference to the baseball legend Babe Ruth. Yep. Try to keep the lock-on button held down so you can make enemies' health bars appear before you even see the enemy himself. Yeah, the lock-on button is also the scout ahead for danger button. By the way, Cobb, the boss of this section, isn't all that tough, and it's mainly because, unlike in story mode, you can grab him, and when you do grab him, he drops his bat. Yes, that bat. 2 great big black bats taped together, and unbreakable. Yeah, because I'm on an emulator, it's easy to screw things up because of the emulator input lag. If this was on an actual PS2 console, I wouldn't have that issue. And I wouldn't have the occasional bursts of lag either. Oh, they only happen for like a second. Stop whinging. I think the fact that I got on top of that guy mistakenly caused me to get killed here. Sadly. Yeah. Sometimes it's the slightest mistakes which can cost you a precious credit. I took a risk and it paid off right there. I thought that guy was going to punch me in the face or reverse my grapple. There he is. And with Cobb's unbreakable bat and the swing two-handed weapons very fast glitch, I was able to finish these guys off in no time at all, including Cobb himself. Right, Rogues Part 2, including Luther with his gun. Now, I almost had a heart attack at one point when I was fighting these guys. That's why. Yep, that's why. If he'd hit me with that, it would have been curtains for me, for sure. Right. It only takes 3 bottles to take Luther out. And thankfully you don't lose health until you've moved past these gravestones up here. Yeah, those. But again, Sarah gets stunned for bloody ages. But not on that occasion, thankfully. But on this occasion, yes. I think at this point I wasn't sure what to do. I honestly thought it was game over at this point. Now, how Luther missed right there is beyond me. But then, I missed. I think if I'd waited a wee bit longer before throwing, I wouldn't have missed him. Good news, Luther went down. Bad news, I left Cobb's bat unattended for too long and it vanished. So I had to go up against the Gramercy Rifts with just a bottle with which to defend myself. and then a broken bottle, and then my bare hands. That being said, I am actually glad I didn't have Cobb's bat with me, because it's very easy for you to drop the bat, causing one of your enemies to take it for themselves, and thereby turning the tables. Two credits left. As you can probably imagine, I was extremely nervous, especially given how far I'd come. I reckon I moved out of the way at just the right time there when that guy came along from the right. Otherwise he would have kicked me for sure, or hit me with some kind of running attack. Now, there are a lot of them, yes, but they actually don't have much health. I think for the guys in orange, one strong grapple is all it takes to take those guys out. Or one strong grapple and then a throw, yep. I think the guys dressed in white are a wee bit tougher. Yeah. I was hoping to finish him off with a power move after grabbing him, but either the game or the controller said no. Well, only one bop to go. It's the ghost of Cyrus, but who is fighting him? Not Star, the ghost of Star. Yeah. For some reason, swapping the Ghost of Cleon model with somebody else causes that somebody else to be in ghost form as well. I was a bit surprised at how much damage Cyrus's attacks caused. So I just thought, right, you know what, nothing fancy, just take him out already. and at that point my face lit up. I was genuinely shocked and ecstatic that I managed to get past this on my first try after putting the playthrough on hold for just under 2 years. Bloody hell. Amazing. And then to wrap the playthrough up, what I do in the recording is, once I get back to the hideout, I then go to the TV in the hangout to show you my stats and prove to you that I now have 100% completion. There you go. Another playthrough has been brought to a proper close. Hope you enjoyed, I sure did. Thanks for watching, stay solid, and don't let the janky as hell controls bite. Until next time, take care and good night, boppers.